It's a big game for both Alabama and Texas A&M. These are two teams that are not in the position that maybe they thought they'd be at this point in the season, but it's still a big game that could determine the rest of the season for them in terms of momentum, finding ways to build confidence in your team. A loss here could do a lot of damage. Both teams come in with one loss, and we'll look at what each team needs to do. We'll look at keys to the game, matchups to watch, and ultimately pick who wins this game, who gets their second loss, and who still has all of their goals ahead of them. We'll start with Alabama because this has been an interesting year for the Crimson Tide. Jalen Milroe and the quarterback position have been under a lot of scrutiny. They've been under the spotlight, and so far we've seen very inconsistent play. Jalen Milroe proved that he is the best guy for the job. Not to say he's one of the best in college football, but he is the best man for this Alabama offense because even though he's not the best passer, he has the greatest resiliency. He has the greatest demeanor of any quarterback on this roster, and he has found ways to make some plays when they needed him. Now, the loss to Texas showed us that this is not the Alabama of old, but this is still a huge game that really determines how focused this team will be for the rest of the year because a two-loss Alabama team this early in the season means not good things for the rest of the year. And I don't want to say that these players will quit, but you're essentially taking yourself out of the playoff race, out of the SEC race if you lose this game. So a guy like Jalen Milroe will play a huge role, and finding ways to elevate this offense really is key. Because right now, if you look at the explosive numbers, Alabama is not exactly winning them offensively. The offense is technically balanced a little bit compared to what they've seen in the past. But that's not because they're explosive balance. It's because they're struggling to pass the football and they're relying so much on running the football that the numbers almost balance out. So finding a way to be better on offense, specifically at the quarterback position and offensive line. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but those are two aspects that need to get better. The defense is doing its part. There is no question that this defense is carrying this team. And when you look at certain things like havoc rate, Alabama is struggling to block people, and that's evident with front seven havoc rate at 13.5%. Alabama is struggling to keep teams away from their quarterback, away from their running backs, and that's not going to be fixed against Texas A&M. This is a Texas A&M front seven that has a ton of playmakers, a ton of disruptive weapons, and Alabama is in for a long day if they can't find ways to block them. Texas A&M obviously disappointed with that Miami loss, but they are trying to do anything and everything to bounce back. You lost Connor Wegman for the season, so a guy like Max Johnson plays a bigger role going forward. I think that he looked really good against Arkansas. Maybe not the best statistical game, but he still looked confident. The offensive line gave him lots of time to throw, and they will need to do that again against Alabama. I think that this offense has too much talent to not be explosive. But I also think that we're seeing Bobby Petrino's system finally settle in, and we're seeing certain guys make big plays. Guys like Evan Stewart, Moose Muhammad, Noah Thomas, those are playmakers that you can utilize and it can make life a lot easier. The running back group is very talented and it feels pretty deep, but it's the passing tech that's really surprising. When you looked, I had to do a double take because I didn't expect this offense to be so good at passing. Now, are they the best in college football? No, absolutely not. But if you had Jimbo running this offense, you would have not seen the numbers we're seeing. So the fact that they're taking a step forward as an offense gives their defense less pressure to pick up the slack because they know that their offense can get the job done. Now, the defense still does their part. Edgerrin Cooper having a big year at linebacker, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. He will play a big role. And this is a team that is good at stopping the run, which coincidentally is what Alabama really wants to do. They want to run the football, and they're going against a front seven that will make that very difficult to do. So finding ways to stop the run and force guys like Jalen Milroe to beat them through the air will probably be a huge key for Texas A&M. We'll start with keys to the game here, and then we'll go to matchups. For Alabama, you have to pressure the quarterback. Max Johnson looked very comfortable against Arkansas last week, and it gave him time to make some throws that maybe necessarily you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have time. He was very confident because his offensive line played really well, and it will be a tough test for this Texas A&M offensive line. This is an Alabama front seven that's very good. These are two front sevens with both teams that are very good. So finding ways to give your quarterback time to throw will play a huge role in determining the outcome. So definitely keep an eye on that. when you're looking at Alabama, you have to limit the mental mistakes. We saw what happened against Texas. Mental mistakes essentially cost them the game. Texas was definitely the better team, but giving them extra opportunities to score didn't help. That's how you also can set the tone. If you're making mistakes early on, Texas A&M is going to eat up that momentum. If you're able to make big plays, move the ball down the field, and create stops, you're setting the tone for the rest of the game, and you're showing that you're very much still a good team and a team to beat. And Texas A&M has a lot of work to do, but if you're setting the tone, if you're Alabama, you feel pretty good about your chances going forward. For Texas A&M, keeping Max Johnson upright again will be a big key. We saw the confidence that Max Johnson played with. We saw some of the throws that he was able to make. And if you're able to do that 2 weeks in a row, then I like your opportunities to win this football game. Containing Jalen Milroe will be a key for the defense. The front seven, like I said, is extremely talented, and Jalen Milroe is an explosive runner. But if you force him to beat you with his arm, you feel pretty good about your chances to win this game because you're going to also limit the explosive plays. You're going to keep everything in front of them, and you're not going to allow a guy like Milroe to beat you because if you let him run, I guarantee you he's going to do some damage. Now, when you look at the specific matchups, you're looking at certain players that could step up and play a big role. Now, you could put Edgerrin Cooper and his ability to slow down Jalen Milroe or whoever they choose to spy Jalen Milroe because they will definitely utilize a spy, or maybe they'll just send a lot of extra pressure and hope that that gets home. There are other matchups to pay attention to, and the offensive line play versus defensive line this week in week 5. There's plenty of matchups in multiple games to watch, but Tyler Booker going against Shemar Turner will be one of the better ones to watch. When you look at these two guys, Tyler Booker is massive, 6'5", 360 pounds. Shemar Turner is a future NFL talent, and right now Alabama is struggling offensively, and it's because their offensive line hasn't played to the level that they should. A guy like Shemar Turner can wreck a lot of game plans, and if Booker is not up for the task, then Turner is going to have a career day. On the other side, you get Trey in the third and Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is one of the best defensive ends. He will potentially be a first round pick, and blocking him will be a key. Like I said, keeping Max Johnson upright is the biggest key for this offense. And a guy like Turner can definitely make for more difficult plans. Speaking of throwing the football, Khalid McKinstry and Evan Stewart are set for an absolute battle. Now, whether or not McKinstry stays on him the whole game, we don't know, but it's definitely a battle worth watching. These are two guys that are extremely talented at their respective positions. And if they're able to win one of them over the other, you're giving your team a better chance to win this game. Staying on that offense side of the ball, Jake Johnson has proved to be a really fun player to watch for this Aggies offense. Brother of Max Johnson, he going against the linebackers for Alabama will play a role as well. Not because of the passing attack, but also because of his ability to block as well in the run game. Deontay Lawson is having a big year. I think that he's been really fun to watch. There are a number of players that you could put here, but a guy like Deontay Lawson has his hands full when you're covering a guy or handling a guy in the run game like Johnson. Jaheim Otis is a big time player for Alabama. He's going against Bryce Foster, who had a big game last week against Arkansas. So you're kind of getting the theme here. The trenches are the key to this game. The line of scrimmage, whoever wins that will have a better chance of winning, and it'll be really fun to see who does dictate that tone, who dictates the pace, and what the offensive line and defensive lines do to help. When you're looking at these quarterbacks, we talked about Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe simply has to be a better passer. The offense only goes as far as he will take them, and so far the numbers have not been impressive. A season high of 255 yards against Texas. One thing I will say is that when Jalen Milroe makes a mistake, he bounces back better than anybody on this roster. I think that his ability to make big plays once he bounces back is what sets him apart. Now, you just would rather not see the mistakes, which is where he struggles. Finding ways to be a more efficient passer, finding ways to get his playmakers involved because there's a lot of talent out wide. And so far, we have not seen much production from this group. And if you're not careful, Texas A&M will find a way to beat you. Texas A&M is a team that is ready to prove that they can beat Alabama again. And a guy like Max Johnson will play a huge role in that. Now, when you look at Johnson's stats, obviously this year he hasn't put up huge numbers because he hasn't been the starter until last week. Connor Wegman was taking over and having a pretty good year until he got hurt. And now Max Johnson, this is why you go to the transfer portal. You add a guy that is it's a step down from Connor Wegman, but he is someone who can definitely help this team. And Texas A&M right now needs to find an edge in any way possible, and Max Johnson might give them that. If Max Johnson can prove that he is a big time weapon and can make smart decisions, then you're looking at a Texas A&M team that very much is capable of pulling off the upset. And honestly, when you're looking at this, unless Alabama finds ways to absolutely stifle Texas A&M's offense, on top of finding explosive plays to the passing attack themselves, I think Texas A&M actually wins this game. I think that this is an Alabama team that is super talented, but there are a lot of issues they need to figure out. Now, I will say if they are able to figure some of them out, then I like Alabama over Texas A&M. But I think right now we're kind of figuring out who Alabama is, and it feels like Texas A&M is building on some momentum and headed in the right direction. So it comes down to really who can fix their flaws quicker. And right now it feels like Texas A&M is doing so a little bit better. So give me the Aggies in this game.